Good evening, everyone. Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Nice to see all of you here already. We've got Rafi Farber coming on at 9 o'clock. We're going to talk about liquidity crises and whether the current one that I definitely think we're in the beginnings of could be different from the one we saw in 08, also in 2020, and some other years. And Rafi wrote about that in one of his latest reports, and I thought it'd be interesting to bring him in to talk about it. So who have we got? Alan Zibelman is here, Chris Jones, Norbert from the Netherlands, Jimmy Hatt, John Gregory from Manchester, Chris Jones, Urban Sombrero says Bitcoin getting a hiding this weekend. Yeah, I saw that. I think it's dropped below 35,000, which was a key support. I exchanged some crypto for fiat today. I do it almost every week because I post on platforms like Hive and Steemit and DTube, and I do earn some of those cryptocurrencies. But yeah, I've noticed Bitcoin is taking a big hit. But I think the key level in Bitcoin is going to be just around 30,000. Grow Mechanic, hi Grow Mechanic. Dave L. Good evening, Dave L. Christina Samuelson. Hello, Christina. Cupid Stunt says evening, Mara and Billy Bullion. Every greetings from Warrington in the UK. Dmitry Shmerkovich from Queens in New York. Doug Stauffer from Arizona. Thank you, Dimitri. Chris Jones says hello, Mary and Billy. Alain Roy from Montreal, Montreal. Grandy, when I get rich off of VIX options, what is the fastest way to convert funds into silver? Well, you need to basically liquidate the options with your broker and then ask your broker to debit your account, send the funds over to your bank account, and from there buy silver from the dealer. The problem with the VIX options, and I traded VIX and I did fairly well in 2022 in March, but there are periods where it's so volatile and the markets are so illiquid that brokers actually freeze the screens. So you have to be careful because you can be very successful with the VIX options and might not be able to get out of them and take the profit. The other thing about options is even when it's really volatile, I've had puts, for example, that actually went up in value when the market rebounded. That's when the market's really crazy. Scott Sam, who is Rafi? What are his credentials? Rafi Farber, he runs a newsletter called Endgame Investor, subscriber newsletter. It's published in Seeking Alpha. And his credentials are that he has a lot of followers. He's on YouTube as well. And people like listening to him. He's a proponent of the Austrian school like I am. So that's Rafi Farber. Philippe Lewis, thank you for your super chat. Why does the federal government show the value of gold on the balance sheet? Well, that's the statutory price that was set in the 70s, $42.22. I think it's just to basically try to keep gold out of the limelight, basically to say it doesn't matter. But it's a silly level, of course, 42.22, because the real level is the market price. I think that's why they do it. They don't want people looking into gold too much. So they, they keep it away, and they keep it at a stupid price like that. That's the price that they would have to, that's related to the gold certificates that the Federal Reserve has, and its value on the Fed's balance sheet at that level, and not at the market level. Love Button says, hi, Mario and Billy. Mark C. from Essex. A Native American says, Mario, you a workaholic. Well, I did play golf today as well, so there you go. Paul Weens from Southern Manitoba. Quit addiction from Outer Mongolia. All right. Carol Garrity from Ireland. Rob McShane. Thomas Moran. If someone doesn't want to use a bank and has precious metals, is there somewhere else safer to keep your currency? You mean your precious metals? I mean, there are private vaults, and I mean, there are places to hide things like that as well. You have to use your imagination. For example, gold investments, they have their own private vault, and they insure it as well. So, but I wouldn't keep much with the bank. Brick 22 from Cleveland, Ohio. Patrick Gelpke, market turmoil is coming this week. Yeah, I mean, the stock and the bond market actually are having a bad year. The NASDAQ is down like 22%. The 10-year note is down like 20%. Usually when the stock market is down, bonds do well. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today with Rafi Farber, the liquidity crunch. Silver Task, good evening. Alias Jones is here as well. Andrew Watson says, hi, Mary Billy. I can hear you loud and clear in Basingstoke. Great. D. Anderson, Keynesians have been so wrong for so long. I'm glad it's being exposed. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And unfortunately, they're in charge, I would say, of the big banks, of the central banks, of government. I mean, Keynes, in his introduction to his theory of money and credit in 1936, the German edition, he actually said that his ideas of how to run an economy through fiscal spending and all that would be better applied to an authoritarian government or country. So is it any wonder that we are in the situation that we are in today with such big government, draconian censorship and things like that? I'm not surprised. Prasoon Gupta, thank you for your super chat. Always a pleasure to hear from you, and Rafi, with love from India. Thank you. Philip Lewis, if there was a war and the government buys back the gold from public, if you hold it, it was illegal. Was the case in the past? No, the gold that's valued at 42.22 is already is held mostly at Fort Knox. So if they wanted to buy gold from the public, they'd have to pay the market price, I would say. No one would want to sell it for 42.22. Quit addiction. Mary, do you think, what's this? Sheep will come back into the championship? I'm not sure what you mean by that, quit addiction. I can't really see what that is. Is that to do with football? I don't follow football or soccer. Mboriako Mugabe, greetings from Hambo. Echo Echo is here. Joker Alpha, every time I post a comment on your channel, I get a troll asking for fiat. Yeah, we've had a lot of these impersonators. They copy my thumbnail. I try to get rid of them as much as possible. Oh, here we go. Rafi is coming on. He's just letting him on here. Hey, Rafi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I always started a little early, so I've been talking to the viewers and
Okay.
yeah. Oh, it's a sheep, Jim Millward. Mary, do you think sheeps will come back into championship 2023? I don't know what championship you mean, quit addiction. Yeah, Rafi, well, yeah, I enjoyed reading your latest report. It wasn't a long one, but you talked about liquidity crisis and that the current one, which I think we're also in the beginnings of. I mean, we've had the stock market down 22%, the treasuries down 20%. Usually it's if one is down, the other one is up. So what do you think is happening here in terms of liquidity? And could we see, like you said, a move towards hard assets? I know we've had a big correction in the miners and in silver of late, but I still think they're doing relatively well to the paper assets.
Really, it depends. It depends what you've been buying.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm already starting to hear people in my neighborhood complain about their stock portfolios, and because everybody knows what I stand for, and I'm the neighborhood village idiot that keeps talking about gold. So they all know what I say, and now they're giving me like these weird looks. I'm like, is what you've been saying about to happen, is that happening now? And I'm like, look, I don't know if it's happening now, and I can't time it perfectly, but I'm going to be right. And if I'm right and you're not doing what I tell you to do, you're going to be very sad. That's
Mm,
basically what I tell them.
yeah,
Um,
but
so
yeah,
is it happening now? I guess if we see when people sell stocks, they've got to buy something. I mean, immediately they're buying dollars. So if they're not buying anything with those dollars, then it's the dollar that's going to go up relative to other currencies, and that's what we're seeing. So it looks like people are selling assets or paper assets, whatever they are, and holding dollars, unsure what to do with them. They're not buying gold or silver with them yet, but they're not buying Bitcoin either, and they're not buying bonds. So what are they buying? The answer seems to be nothing right now.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe
but
when
that's one
they,
step closer. That's one step closer to the end game than buying bonds with it, for example.
yeah, because bonds, the 10-year yield is gone from 1.5% at the beginning of the year, and we're now over 3%. So that's a doubling of that yield. And I think people who are holding cash, let's say dollars or any other fiat currency, when they start seeing the cost of living and continue to go higher and accelerate, then they might start. I think they will start looking at things like gold and silver and other commodities as well. Is that the way you see it too?
Yeah, it's not. I think it's going to start on the street, right? Usually, it's the hedge fund owners and the people who understand money and finances that make the first moves, and then the public follows them into the same bubbles, and that's where we've gotten to. But in a hyperinflation, it's the street that leads the professional investors, and it's not that they're thinking. They don't have this like monetary theory in their heads, and it's not sophisticated. They're saying, look, prices are going up really, really fast. I got to get out of this money and just buy anything. And what's the thing that is the most dense value thing that I could just buy is gold or silver. That it's usually silver. It's
Yeah.
not any theory or any genius these people are thinking. It's just like they just got to get rid of their money and they're trying to buy things as
Yeah.
fast as possible.
Yeah. And I think silver is very much unloved right now,
Yeah.
you know, by the public. And I think that's a really bullish thing, because sentiment is so bad, and that it can't go any lower. And the other thing I would say is that, you know, yeah, I think people, when people, they, like you said, people don't really read things, and the general public, it's just by instinct. It's just in our DNA. And they're going to start looking at things that we've been looking for years. So we have a question here. I mean, I can answer maybe on the UK side, maybe you can answer on the US side. I know you in Israel, but you follow the US quite a bit too. Do you think housing market is in trouble?
Yeah, you want to go first with the UK?
Yeah, the UK, actually, I'm thinking of making a video about it, because I did a video in April about the UK housing market. Um, what did I name it? Let me just check here. And I'm thinking of doing a second video, because the mainstream media now is talking about what I spoke about over a month ago. And what was it? The party is over for UK house prices. I won't go too much into it, because I want to make a video probably tomorrow or the next day. But basically, there is a danger with interest rates rising, mortgage rates rising, that people who are on fixed rates, let's say, the way it works here, let's say you get a mortgage for 25 years, but you fix the deal for 2 years, and after 2 years you have to renew it. And apparently there's loads of people who fixed mortgage rates during the pandemic at less than 1%, and now it's starting to rise to 2, 3, or even more, and it's coming due. And they might not be able to actually refinance it, and that could force them into selling their homes. And the other thing as well is that the way interest rates are rising, very few people are going to be able to afford. Mortgage brokers and mortgage providers are tightening their standards. So yeah, there is a problem in the UK housing market. I think it will take a few more months for it to be reflected in prices. Average house price in the UK is at all-time highs, but I think we're near a top. So
Yeah.
I'll let you take over for.
So with the US, what I read today and yesterday is that first of all, Zillow is the big online real estate broker dealer kind of thing, and they exited the house flip. They had a house flipping program that they exited a few months ago, maybe a year ago, and their forecast for the housing market is dire or dour or one of those bad words. But how it's been functioning basically is just, it's the same thing as the 2006 housing bubble, that you have speculators that are buying these houses to flip them to other speculators, who then flip them to other speculators, and nobody actually wants to live in them. And the people who want to live in them, if somebody with an actual house that he wants to live in, has a mortgage that's adjustable rate mortgage, because that's what most people do in order to buy bigger houses, then they're going to have to pay much higher rates very soon. Because if you look at the 30-year mortgage rate, it's I don't know if I can share this. I don't have it on my screen. So like
It's over 5%, is it now, or?
Yeah, but it's not. It's like 5.4%. But the thing is, it's never jumped so quickly from, I think, like 3% to 5.4%. So that means that when people have to retether their mortgages to the going rate, their monthly payments go up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So
It's the
they're
same here
getting,
in the UK. And in the UK, there's so many people that jumped on this. They wanted to fix at below 1% during the pandemic. And now, even if it just goes to 3%, the mortgage rate here, because the 10-year yield here has kind of been controlled by the Bank of England, is still around 2%. But I think they're going to lose control of that. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it bodes well for the housing market. Um, we've got thank you, Dimitri, for your super chat. Can they revalue or recall fixed rate US mortgage if collateral prices backing them takes a dramatic hit? Uh, I will answer it, and then Rafi will answer it if he wants. Uh, you need to look at the small print, the contract for your mortgage. Sometimes they can recall mortgages, I think. Whether they can revalue it, I don't know. Unless, if it's fixed, it's very hard then for them to revalue it. They might be able to recall it. You have to look at the small print.
well, I haven't actually looked at the small print of my mortgage.
Yeah.
But I was able to get an absolute fixed rate mortgage. I pay the same amount every month for the next, however long it takes me to pay it
Yeah.
down, no matter what happens. And I paid I agreed on a much higher rate than, I got my mortgage in 2018, I think.
Mm.
And rates were much lower than they are now. And I was offering to pay a much higher rate just so I wouldn't have to worry about anything moving.
Yeah.
And because I knew where things were going, and I
Yeah.
didn't know how long exactly it was going to take, but it was going to take a lot less than,
Yeah.
25, 30 years.
Yeah.
I knew that for sure.
Yeah. So Henstar one, sorry, no, actually Matt Bittner. I read the farmers during the Weimar Republic fared better than most during the hyperinflation. Yeah, they did, because they had something of value, something that you could survive on, i.e., food, or dairy products, meat. And actually, the government and politicians, they went after the farmers, because when there's hyperinflation, the currency becomes worthless, and farmers, they will raise their prices, because they know they get paid with something that's worthless, for real goods. So they become a target for, they become scapegoats. And I think Russia and other resource rich nations, and even oil companies, they're becoming scapegoats, because um, I think these are the beginnings of a hyperinflation. And that's why we're getting also like a lot of backwardation in commodities. And yeah, they're going to be blamed. And even people like, people like us who have been stacking, when gold and silver really go through the roof, when everything is really in dire straits, they're actually going to be blaming people like us. They're going to say, you caused this, even though we're just protecting ourselves. Rafi, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they're gonna be blaming us, but hopefully they won't have a lot of power to do anything at that point. They're gonna lose power very quickly, because their power is based basically on the ability to quiet the masses with food, and give them bread and circuses, and that's what they do. So when that's up, that's it. And who knows what happens then? I just hope we can stay safe. But if you want to go down into, I try not to go down too deeply into any rabbit holes, but I can't help but link a headline I saw today, I think on Ice Age Farmer or Zero Hedge, or both, that I think 25 million tons of grain are locked in the Ukraine and they can't get out. I mean, and maybe what Russia is doing, or what Putin is doing, is trying to keep the food supply away from the West, to kind of starve them out, and then you let the dollar fall and then make his move. I don't know if that's what he's trying to do, or if it's just a coincidence. I don't know who's smart and who's not, but that will be the effect of it. I mean,
Yeah. Joker Alpha, with Ukraine conflict escalating, would there be a rush to the US dollar as a safe haven? The demand would make the Fed go brrr. Well, actually, right now, I guess there is a rush to the dollar, but you have to remember the dollar is just a fiat currency. And I would say it's more like the euro, the pound, and the yen, you know, having a really bad time because they're not the major reserve currency. But if anything, the currency that seems to be doing really well now is the ruble. I mean, the dollar went up to 140, and this week the dollar dropped to 60. So I think safe haven ultimately will be like farming. People who have farms, that will be a safe haven. People who have maybe bought extra food and stuff. People who have precious metals. I know you can't eat it, but you can exchange it for things. Gold and silver have always held their value, and they are always exchangeable into things that are needed for survival. And I would say even the countries that have access to a lot of natural resources, their currencies will do well as well. Rafi, any?
Wait, what was the original question?
Yeah, let's have a look here. Oh yeah, with what's going on in the Ukraine, with the conflict, they're escalating.
Oh,
No,
yeah, dollars. Yeah,
as a safe
is there going to be
haven.
a rush to the dollar?
Well,
Yeah, but it's very mechanical. It's a mechanical phenomenon. It's not a demand for dollars. It's like it's a demand for something else, and the way that you get that something else is through dollars, because when
yeah,
you sell things, you get dollars just
yeah,
by the way that the monetary system is set up. But what I think we will see, and we're already seeing this since the beginning of 2022, and I think I put this in my report on the Endgame Investor. So if you look at the chart of the dollar index versus commodities versus the commodity indexes, they're basically mirror images, right? When the dollar index goes up, the commodity index goes down, and they just go
vice
like
versa.
this,
Yeah,
and that makes sense.
yeah,
But now the dollar index is going up, but commodities are going up with it, which means, yeah, the dollar is the preferred currency in a time of a liquidity crisis, just because companies happen to have dollar denominated debt, so therefore they need dollars to pay them. And when there's a liquidity crisis, they'll bid high for those dollars. But that doesn't mean that the prices of real goods are going to go down in dollar terms.
yeah,
I
and
think we're going to have a liquidity crisis and a hyperinflationary crisis at the same time.
yeah, that's really. I think the Keynesians would really have a tough time wrapping that around their brains. But I believe that that's possible. And I spoke to I forgot his name now, but he's in Beirut in Lebanon, and since 2019 they've had like a currency collapse, hyperinflation, and liquidity crisis. So there's no money around or anything, and I think that's what it's going to be like, and it's not very nice. And it's more than just having gold and silver or having the right investments. It's about being in a close-knit community and having people that friends and helping each other out. I think it's going to be quite ugly.
Yeah, it is, but we're all going to have to rediscover our humanity in ways that we didn't really imagine.
I think so, and I think we got too complacent. I think this financialization of the economy and all the cheap goods that we import from the rest of the world, and all the cheap credit. The West has really been borrowing and spending instead of producing and saving. And I think eventually people who are able to protect their wealth, they'll be able, hopefully, to save again, get a decent return on their money. Any view on that, Rafi?
Well, yeah, look, it's hard to say exactly how you're going to save yourself, and there's only so much you can do, but you've got to stay calm and realize that I don't think we're headed into 1,000-year dark ages here. I don't think
Oh, no.
there's a lot of commonality with the Roman Empire. That's true. We can draw the parallels. I mean, people have clearly lost their minds, and so did the Roman emperors at the end. Um, maybe Joe Biden has lead poisoning. I don't know. His brain seems that way. But we're not headed into 1,000 years dark ages, so I wouldn't worry about that. Most of the capital is going to be here. It's just a question of who has the purchasing power to buy it,
Mm.
and if the basic rule of law can be kept together. And I'm hoping that it can be, and there's nothing I can do if it isn't.
Yeah, I think if you look back at hyperinflation and currency collapse, it's a painful process and it lasts, the culmination of it is like 6 months to a year. And after that, things recover. But it's a necessary, it's because I would say it's because the system is not sustainable anymore. We've had 50 years of this fiat currency debt-based system. And no, I don't think it's the end of the world. Maybe the end of the world as we know it. And I think people, life will be just as good, I think, if not better. But you're not going to get instant gratification, and you're not going to be able to um, borrow so much, because borrowing, according to the Austrians, is just like consuming today what you're supposed to produce in the future. So I don't think it's going to be necessarily bad, but unfortunately, I think a lot of people are not aware that it's going to happen. We got a comment here, Heart of Texas, I bonds paying 9.62% at Treasury Direct. I have looked into these I bonds because I saw a guy making a video on it on YouTube. The
What
only
is
thing about,
that?
yeah, they're like inflation protected bonds.
Oh, tips?
No, they're I bonds, they're called, but you can only buy a limited amount, like a year. You can't buy more than, let's say, 25,000. So for big investors, it's no good. But yeah,
Who
they're
pays
paying
them?
the U.S. Treasury. It's a
Oh,
Treasury. Yeah, it's called I bonds. So there are limits, But I saw that. It's an interesting thing. Maybe people should look into it. Uh,
it sounds like a gimmick that can pay off for a while, but it's not going to last in the explosions. You can't rely on the
Yeah,
treasury to pay anything.
that's the other thing, when people talk about the dollar, and yes, the dollar is strong right now versus other fiat currencies because it's still the major reserve currency. And like Rafi said, uh, when you sell things, you get dollars. And maybe a lot of people haven't decided to get out of dollars yet, but when they realize that the dollar is a debt instrument and it's backed by US Treasury bills, Treasury notes, and Treasury bonds, and that the value of these bonds are falling down you know, falling quite precipitously, they will realize that it's not worth keeping that currency. And I think when people realize that, that's when gold and silver are going to go like through the roof.
Really, when you imagine, if you imagine being a multimillionaire or a multi-billionaire, what is it that what is the picture that you have in your head? You might imagine that you have a really expensive car, that you have a mansion, that you have, I don't know, vacation homes or whatever it is, or private jet. You're not imagining a stack of money in a bank account or something. You're not imagining paper bills. You're imagining all the stuff that you can get with
Yeah,
it.
you want assets, like real estate, antiques. Yeah,
Yeah. So if the money can't buy, if the money can't get you that, then there's no point to it.
yeah, and
So
I think a lot of these people are fairly maybe not all of them, but if you're a billionaire and you keep a lot of it in cash, it's a big mistake, I would say. But Heart of Texas says that the limit of these I bonds are $10,000 a year per person. So there, and Jack B is saying tips. No, they're not tips. Tips are paying a lot less than 9.62. Tips are Treasury inflation protected securities. I bonds are different.
I bonds pay at the CPI rate. Is that the idea?
I think so. Yeah, I forgot. I went through it, but
Well, if they pay the CPI rate, they pay zero. So-
yeah, I know. Thomas Moran, have you heard of Positive Money in the UK, Mario? It's a charity trying to inform the masses about corrupt bankers. I haven't heard of Positive Money. Have you heard of them, Rafi?
Nope.
No, I haven't. I mean, I'm doing the same thing here on my channel, but I haven't heard of them. Gianfranco Bergagna, Rafi, is Israel already using the natural gas of the giants discovery they did a few years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that like in the Mediterranean?
Yeah, it's off the coast of Zichron Yaakov.
I see.
So there's a big there's a big platform where they're I guess digging the gas. You could see it off the coast,
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the reasons why the shekel is so strong.
yeah,
That we have relatively cheap natural gas here, and we have pretty expensive diesel and gasoline, but
yeah. So you're not feeling the pinch so much for the utilities.
not as much. No.
That's good. Let's have a look here. Echo says in the UK, they changed the way inflation linked government bonds are calculated for coupon payments. They will stop using RPI after 2029 and use CPI, which usually is less than RPI. Yeah, but I guess they're still giving you quite a few years there. RPI is the retail price index, and that's what used to be used to measure prices. And then when labor came to power in the late 90s, they brought about this CPI, and it's usually like 2 to 3% less than the RPI. RPI includes council tax and rent, which is really a big part of people's, especially people at the lower end. It's a big part of their budget. And if you don't count that in the CPI, it makes a mockery out of it. RPI, the last number was 9%. So, and I think it's a lot more than that because they fiddle with the numbers here too. Dilwyn Roberts asking you, Rafi, if gold goes up, now, Rafi, think if gold goes up, going to spend it all on women. I don't know what he's talking about.
I have no interest in that.
No, I don't know. I read that and then I saw at the end. It's a silly question. BP, I watched a video that said that they used to boil counterfeiters alive. Do you think it will take something like that to restore sound money? What do you think? Well, that would be a start, I think.
The only capital punishments I support are the ones in the Torah. Boiling alive is not one of them.
All
And
right.
they're very rare. So no, I can't support that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit extreme. Yeah, but counterfeiting is, I think in the US Constitution is a capital offense.
Okay, so let's apply it to the Federal Reserve Board.
Yeah. The bond market will fall due to distrust alone. I think it's already starting. The other reason I think treasuries are going down a lot, and but also I was reading about the Italian government bond. They're having trouble. Their yields have gone up massively and very quickly. The other reason, though, I think people are getting rid of treasuries is that a lot of foreign countries, especially the people who are more on the side of the global south, they're seeing that what the US can do and the EU, to people's reserves, and they're just trying to get rid of, I would say, those reserves, and usually they put those in treasuries or European government bonds. So let's have a look here. Andrew Watson says coin clippers used to be hung in England. Helsinki, question for both of you. Can you please elaborate on price of silver over the next month, likely to go up or down? Do you want to speculate on that, Rafi?
I can't deal with month time frames.
Yeah.
But I mean, silver, if it goes down from here, it's going to go down probably very hard, but very quickly, just like we saw in 2020, in March 2020. But every time silver goes down like this, it's faster and faster. You have a very, very short window. In 2008, we had, I think it was like 3 or 4 month window, and 2020 was like 2 weeks. So this time it could be 2 or 3 days. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
very, very quick,
I
because
remember.
they're going to print money immediately whenever whatever happens to bring
Yeah.
down silver is going to happen.
I remember in March 2020 when that happened, silver went below 12. I remember the day it did it, and I called Gold Investments, and they only had about 10 or 11 silver Britannias, and I bought them. And so that's the other thing. When it happened in 08, it's very hard to get any physical silver when that happens. So it's weird because the paper price apparently has gone down, I think 12 or 13 days in a row. And the one thing that we used to look in the markets when I used to work in the city, if you look at this Fibonacci sequence, which is 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13.
Yeah, the golden mean, right?
Yeah, and third, and a lot of times we use, there are markets that usually maybe went up 13 days in a row or down 13 days in a row, and usually it bottoms or tops after 13 days because it's a Fibonacci sequence. So I think we could be near a bottom, but I don't know where it's going to be in a month's time. Silver. The thing about silver, I keep stacking the real thing, and I just love the coins as well. And yeah, and I've been doing it for years. So
I did notice something.
Yeah.
I noticed something. I look in the Bible a lot, and I found some sources on silver that I knew about, but in relation to silver dropping in price, when I think in the book of Kings 1, right, when Solomon completed the first temple, it says explicitly he had so much gold and silver, he had so much silver that silver was pretty much worthless. Like people would, there's a verse that says that if silver was in somebody's pocket and dropped out of his pocket, he wouldn't even pick it up. It was so cheap, because like the kingdom was importing so much silver. But that was about. But after his reign, right, there was the Civil War, and the Northern Kingdom broke up with the Southern Kingdom. And it says that because of taxes, because taxes were so high and people were so poor because they were funding all this public building and the building of the temple, that they couldn't afford to eat anymore. So like it's a juxtaposition of the kingdom is very rich, and then all of a sudden everyone's very poor, and then there's a civil war. I mean, it can happen very quickly. That might be the message there.
And the silver becomes more valuable because no one has it. Yeah.
Right.
The other thing about stacking silver, it's like saving. And if you have nice coins and bars, you don't want to get rid of it because, but if you have a book entry in the bank, let's say $1,000 or more, it's very easy to spend it. And when you have silver, no, you just keep it. And I think it's a great way to save because you don't want to get rid of it. But yeah, you have to have the saving mentality. Um, Echo, one of the most eye-opening things you showed me is that the UK money used to have 92.5% silver. That amazed me and helped me realize how precarious our system is now. Yeah, I mean, that was up until 1919. All the coinage in the UK, except for like the tuppence and pennies and farthings, which were copper, all the coinage was like silver. And why up until 1919? Well, because we had World War I and the UK spent a lot of real money and they had to take the half the silver out of the coinage. That's how they cheated. That's how they paid for the war. And that's, they stole the silver from the public. And, so the shilling was still worth a shilling, the face value, but it had half the silver. So from 1920 till 1946, the coinage had half 50% silver. Prior to that was 925, which is the sterling standard. If you look at some jewelry, even in the States or anywhere, if it's got 925, it's sterling, and that's the coinage used to be that. And then after World War II, Britain or the UK was even more in debt, so they took the whole silver out, but they still kept the face value, the shilling, the florin, the crowns, but it had no silver. And that's why you get inflation, because people realize the money is gone. They've taken the silver out of the money, is not as valuable. It's like copper, nickel. Yeah. And it didn't just happen in the UK, it happened in the whole world. So silver was universal money for most countries up until the 60s, 1960s.
1919 was also the year that a silver dollar, I believe, was worth more than a gold dollar.
Really? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think
not that silver was worth more than gold, but
the dollar. Yeah, the dollar is, yeah. But and also there was a huge bull market in silver in the UK after the war. Like 1920, silver went up like massively, and that's one of the reasons why they had to they took the silver out of the coinage. Let's have a look here.
That's another reason why basically the sign of hyperinflation is silver going to the moon. That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
real money reasserting itself. So it's not gonna, it might not be in a month, but it's definitely going to happen. That's what you've got to internalize.
And I think most people haven't, they haven't looked at this, and they just look at the fiat price, and they say, oh, what are you talking about? Why are you buying silver? But they don't understand that silver is money. Thomas Moran, did you hear that the Japanese have sold some of their treasuries? Yeah, I heard that some fund managers have been selling treasuries. Maybe it's because the dollar's gone up so quickly versus the yen, so they might think it's not sustainable. Any views on that, Rafi? Did you hear about that too?
I did hear about that. I don't think the numbers are serious anymore. I think the media takes a story and runs with it and tries to get clicks. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but
Yeah.
But if you look at the tick figures, Japan is actually the biggest owner of U.S. Treasuries, even bigger than China.
Yeah.
So it's the old world. It's the post World War II alliance after the United States nuked Japan. Japan became basically America's bitch. So
oh yeah, I know. Some people say that Sony, the Japanese company, actually stands for Standard Oil of New York, Sony, because the Rockefellers are so huge in Japan. But maybe it's the mainstream trying to detract away from the fact that the Japanese are actually killing their bond market and their currency. And like you said, they're still buying loads of treasuries. And why do they do that? Well, because they're only getting 0.25 for their 10-year or less, and their currency is going down. So of course, and if you're getting 3% for U.S. Treasuries, and the dollar is going up, that makes a lot of sense. And it's the only reason why I think U.S. Treasuries haven't gone down more. Part of it is because of this crazy BOJ policy. So I actually think if we see a reversal of that, if the Bank of Japan loses control of the yield curve control and yields go through 0.25 and the yen actually strengthens, we could see an acceleration in the rise in interest rates in the US and all over the world. So I think it's really important to keep an eye on the dollar versus the yen and the 10-year JGB.
We talk about acceleration in interest rates. They've never risen this fast before, ever. So we're already in there. I mean, it's information goes so fast, so it still feels slow, but things are moving already now.
Yeah. No, I know, but I think it could move even faster if that were to happen in Japan. And all right. Let's see. Let's see if I missed some questions. Oh yeah, Rafi, have you heard anything about Deutsche Bank?
I'm watching their stock price. I haven't heard anything that's been that's changed anything fundamentally about them. They're a zombie bank. They've been a zombie bank for 12 years. And one of these days they're just going to collapse. It's going to be pretty sudden. We're just going to there might not be even any news. It's just like, Deutsche Bank stock is down 20%. Nobody knows why. And then all of a sudden you hear there's a liquidity crunch in Deutsche Bank. That's what I think is going to happen. It's been dead for years. It's just a question of when they admit it.
BP asks you, Rafi, do you have any good resources on the value of silver during biblical times? E.g., for example, how wealthy was a person who had a silver talent? It's very hard to find any data on how valuable silver was.
Oof, that's a good one. I have a lot. But it's not from the Bible. It's from the Mishnah. The Mishnah has a whole section on monetary law, gold versus silver. It's called Perek Hazav in Maseches Chulin. But so they have examples of what costs what in terms of gold and silver on different levels. So you can get a good price array from that from around the year 200 in the Common Era. So I mean, I could work on publishing some kind of catalog. But I haven't done that yet, but I know where it is.
Yeah. Matt Bittner, do you think do you like Sunshine Mint Silver? What's your opinion? I think I have some bars from the Sunshine Mint. I think they're good. Have you got any of those, Rafi?
No.
Sunshine Mint. No, I think they're okay though. The Sunshine Mint.
Hey, look, if you've got a good price, you don't. I don't think you have to worry about clipping coins from any private mint. That's not. That's...
And silver. It doesn't matter as long as you know that it's legitimate. Not counterfeit. Silver can be from anywhere in the world. Like gold, it's a commodity. It's the same everywhere. Of course, in some countries there are different tax rules. You might want to stick to your country's coins, but in the end of the day, it's all silver. Good humor man says the engineered famine is on the way. If you're unable to eat, you will be an early victim. What do you think of that, Rafi? Because I've been hearing about a lot of food processing centers being burnt down or destroyed in the States. I'm not sure. I haven't really followed that closely.
I'm not sure. My take on these conspiracy theories is maybe they're true, maybe they're not true. Whether they are or they aren't, I do know that a food shortage is coming because this is what happens in history, whether it's being actively accelerated by the bombing of food centers. I tend to doubt it. I don't think it is. What I think that simply is algorithms that are looking for keywords for news stories, and
Yeah,
they find a fire here that wouldn't have normally been reported on or spread around by
that's
our type
true.
of people, and then it
Yeah,
just gets more coverage than usual, and then we think it's
yeah.
happening all over the place, but it's normal stuff.
Maybe because they're trying to find a reason for something that's happening that's been caused actually by the monetary system, and maybe trying to say, find a scapegoat.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think these fire stories or anything in the that pop up here and there, I don't think they really mean much.
mm,
That's my feeling. I haven't really researched that much, and I don't really care to, because I still know what's going to happen.
yeah. Helen of Troy, Helen of Troy Ounce asks a question here: will 1,000 ounce of silver be enough for a luxury yacht? Thank you for the great show.
Yes.
All right, there you go. You can buy what's his name? Roman Abramovich's yacht. Now, I don't know, 1,000 ounces, some people think silver is going to go into the thousands of dollars. So yeah, you could buy a yacht with that. The problem with yachts, I think they're a money pit. They're really nice and everything, but there's a lot of costs involved. You have to moor it. You have to have you basically have to have a captain looking after it, crew. So make sure, Helen, you get 2,000 ounces. Then you can have a luxury yacht and also run it.
The more stuff you have, the more worry you have.
Yeah, that's right. BP, why are the Japanese playing along with knowing that they are committing monetary harikiri? Well, because the whole, it's militarily occupied by the US, isn't it, Rafi?
Yeah, I think the U.S. Army still occupies Japan.
Yeah, they're still there. What's the place, the big naval base? I forgot the name, but
Okinawa.
Okinawa, yeah. That it's like the same thing with Germany. I mean, you still have US military and British military occupation of Germany, so they need to do pretty much what they're told. Larry Farris, why are bond prices going down? A bad thing? Question mark. It means you're receiving higher interest payments. And like gold, bond prices going down should be a time to buy more. Um, I mean, it's good for people, I guess, who haven't had bonds, and let's say they had $1 million in the beginning of the year, and instead of buying a 10-year for and getting 1.5%, they kept that 1 million in the bank, and now they're buying it for, and getting 3%. But the bad thing is, if you had 1 million of 10-year notes in the beginning of the year, let's say it was trading at 100, now it's trading at like 80, and the yield is 3%, but you're still getting the 1%. That's the problem with the bond returns going up, because the price goes down. And even if you buy now $1 million worth of bonds and you get 3%, if that were to go to like if the price dropped by another 20%, you'd only have, and you wanted to sell it, it would be worth 800,000, and but the yield would be like 4.5 or 5. I don't know exactly the number. So it's good for people who have cash, but people who are holding bonds, it's a really bad thing when yields go up. In the 70s, you had that, and bonds were called, if you held bonds, they were called certificates of confiscation. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, Rafi?
Yeah, so when you have a bond pays the same amount of money from the time that it is brought into existence until the time that it matures. So your yield is just based on how much you pay for it to get that bond. So if it pays $1 a year and you bought it for $99, you get 1%. But if it pays that same dollar of interest in a coupon dollar a year and you paid $80 to get it, then you get much higher percent, 1 out of 80 instead of 1 out of 99. That's how yields work. It's not that the bond is paying more or less. It's just that you're getting a higher percentage based on what you paid for it in the secondary market. That's all.
Yeah. Someone is asking here. Okay. Why are credit card companies keep driving up limits? I don't have a credit card. Do you know what's going on with credit cards? Driving up
I've
limits
been
like
getting some interest-free offers.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they're driving up the limits. I would say. You mean like if you have a $10,000 borrowing limit, they're lifting it to 20,000. Maybe because they're not getting enough business, so they're trying to lure people into borrowing more so they can make more profits. That's the only thing I can think of. 10,000 beaches. I've been working on a devaluation with hyperinflation, setting up for that for 5 years and just waiting, but enjoying life waiting. Well, that's a good thing. We do need to enjoy life still. We can't let all these things that are happening in the financial world and geopolitically and politically, stop us from living, because you go outside, and the sun is shining, everything is beautiful. And yeah, nothing is wrong really with the world. What's wrong is with the way things are being run. Wouldn't you say so, Rafi?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. Everything that the world is a beautiful place. The people that are in charge are not.
Yeah.
But they'll move on. They'll die. As long as men die, liberty does not perish.
Joker Alpha says, was the recent precious metal smash caused by the 50 basis point rate hike? I don't think so, Joker Alpha, because this rate hike was already priced in. I think the reason why the metals have been under pressure is because of the temporary strength of the dollar versus the other crappy fiat currencies. But even if you look at gold, we're still up on the year. It's only silver that's been hit a bit more, because I think a lot of the commodities corrected as well. And there's a little bit of this liquidity crunch and people, unwinding out of commodities. But I think they're still outperforming stocks and bonds. What's your take on the precious metal action, Rafi?
Technically, in the short term, it doesn't look so encouraging. But that just turns on my other, excited button, because I always keep a cash reserve in case this happens. I've been waiting for something like this to happen since the last time it happened. And I've always been leaning towards it happening, because I don't think it's not going to be easy. I mean, markets never make it easy for people to just grab on and hold on, and that's it. It's going to be very hard, even for the hardest of gold bugs, to really see this through. So
Yeah.
I do see one final plunge. I think it's going to be scary, especially for gold bugs who have margin in their accounts. It might wipe them out. And if it happens, you have to have the cash to be able to buy.
Yeah, I think margin.
I think it's going to be one more. I don't think it's going to be two.
Yeah, I think margin, using small margin to trade or invest and leverage is, in the mining space. So precious metals is a really bad idea. I buy everything 100%. Matt Bittner, Rafi, what do you have to do to buy a gun in Israel? Is it easy to buy guns?
That's a frustrating story for me. It's easy to get a gun if you live in certain areas, but it's also very easy to lose it if you do anything that they don't like. for any reason. So I got a gun. They took it away from me because I insisted on walking my daughter into her kindergarten. And that's a whole story. So
with the gun, or you had the gun?
not with a gun. But I walked her into a kindergarten without a green pass, and I was charged for assault for that. So I'm trying to take people to court over it, but
Yeah.
the court system here is a joke. But yeah, if you live in Judea and Samaria and what they call the West Bank, or you live where I live, somewhere near the border, you can get a gun, but if you dare use it for any reason, they'll put you in the prison. So there's not much point.
Oh, so you can get a gun, but you can't use it. Okay.
Yeah.
Not even to for self-defense.
No, not even for that. I mean, theoretically you could, but you risk your life. If
I
you
see.
risk your life, if you don't, you risk your life if you do. I mean, there was a case recently, I think two months ago, where there was an attacker who was just going around with a knife trying to stab people, and a few people who were armed. There's a lot of people in Israel that are armed. Went and shot him, and they got put in prison for a while until there was a public outcry and then they got released. But they will arrest you for doing anything with a gun.
Let's have a look here. We've answered a few of those questions. Well, BP's got another question. What will happen to countries like Korea, Taiwan, and Poland when the US is not able to sustain their military bases? Well, it's going to be, just think of what happened to the former Soviet Union republics, and also think what happened to the Eastern European countries, I would say. Yeah.
Taiwan looks like it will eventually be invaded by China.
Yeah.
Poland, I don't know. Korea, I don't think anything's gonna happen to Korea. I don't think North Korea is not much of a threat. Maybe they have nuclear weapons, but they're not gonna do anything with them, and they don't have any food. So what can they do?
Someone is asking here, Matthew Lizzo, will the Western banks survive the Russia exit? I saw this week there's some talk about, I think they have an exposure about $10 billion in Russia, and I think it's more of the major French banks that are pretty big in Europe, but the French banks, I think, is SocGen and some others, they might have a bit of trouble, but all the other banks, they're not really heavily exposed. Did you see that, Rafi, that story?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to lead to much.
No, and I think, yeah.
Yeah, SocGen though is especially weak. It's in some ways it's even weaker than Deutsche.
Yeah.
But which one of those banks will be the first one to fall? It would be SocGen or Deutsche. I don't know which one, but when one of them falls, the other one will fall with it.
Well, I think SocGen, if there's a problem there, the French government will probably nationalize it. That's what they'll do.
Yeah, well, just like the American government nationalized Fannie and Freddie, it didn't help their stock prices or anything.
And I even think they bought part of Citibank. They bailed out Citibank. They bailed out AIG.
Yeah.
And because AIG owed billions to Goldman Sachs. If they hadn't, by bailing out AIG, the Treasury, they're actually helping pay Goldman Sachs. So that's how it, but the thing to think of when these kinds of things happen, these bailouts, it means that we're going to have more and more deficit spending, more and more inflation. I know that after 2008, the consumer price inflation wasn't too bad, but it's coming home to roost now, I think, because all the inflation of the credit and currency supply hasn't been destroyed, so it's going to flow somewhere.
The end game of all these bailouts is that eventually all governments will bail out all their banks with worthless money, and then their books will be straight in fiat terms, but they won't be able to buy anything with them, and that'll be the end of it.
Joker Alpha says, Rafi, do you believe there will be another PM smash down? I think he answered that already. He said
Yeah, I do.
there's be one more.
I do believe that, but I might be wrong, and in case I'm
Yeah.
wrong, I have my positions, and in case I'm right, I have my cash.
Yeah.
I always play it
Yeah.
both ways.
Lightning for the Monaco 64 and Rafi, with the ruble attached to gold. If this continues through this year, do you see any countries following suit? Well, I'll answer first. They didn't really attach the ruble to gold. They just said that they were going to pay 5,000 rubles, 5,000 rubles per gram, and I think they were trying to help out the gold mining industry in Russia, and also at the same time put a floor underneath the ruble. But I heard that they stopped this deal. So, but at the same time, they've been talking about maybe backing the ruble with gold. So I don't think they've done it yet. Rafi?
Yeah, I don't know. I wrote about this, and you actually you wrote me back on your opinion on this, but
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what Russia is doing. Gold bugs have this dream that the ruble will be backed in gold, and then our dreams will come true. Maybe that'll happen. It seems a little bit too easy, too obvious.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more disorderly than that. And Putin is definitely not a hero of mine, and I don't like the guy, and he's very dangerous, and he's not very good. So I don't want to be saved by him, and I don't want to be saved by any government making any gold standard move. I'd rather they just all go bankrupt.
The reason I started buying gold in 2002 was not because I thought, oh, Russia is going to go back on the, it doesn't. That's not the reason for having gold and silver. And yeah, if it happens, it could give the gold price a boost, but I don't think we need Putin to back the gold with the ruble for the precious metals to do well. I think the reason precious metals are doing well is because Western central banks are going to have to keep inflating. All right. Someone's saying that at current exchange rates, the ruble values gold at 2180. Yeah, at 5,000 a gram it is, but I don't think they're doing that deal anymore. So I read that they stopped that for now. So yeah, Rafi, thanks for joining us. I always enjoy when you join us, and I think the viewers do as well. Before we wrap up, just wanted to say that you should visit Rafi's YouTube channel. It's Rafi Farber. And also, if you're looking to get really good analysis of markets and other things, go to the Endgame Investor. Just Google the Endgame Investor, and he's on Seeking Alpha. Thanks, Rafi.
Thank you, Mario.
And have a great week, and we'll talk soon. And viewers, thank you for showing up, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. All right. Let's end stream.